in this lifetime in the UK.
Hey. So we are live. Hello, everybody, and hello, Matthew and DM and Sean and Luke. It is so good to have the writers of Rohan back. 6
Be
months
back.
later, I'm so excited.
The beacons were lit, and we came.
Yeah.
We needed some beacons. We needed some beacons this summer.
Muster the
Best
Rohan.
I've got is probably the torchlight on my phone.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have made an epic intro of like the beacons coming alive.
Yeah.
The next time we do one of these, I want to put one of those together with like beacons on fire.
Hey,
We could do like green screens. We could all be a beacon.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, let's show us lighting our beacon and then backing away. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the guys on the mountain.
Seriously. Thank
Yeah.
you all for joining, and thank you everybody on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. If you're new here and you don't know who the writers of Rohan are, they are the amazing group of authors that you see in front of you. This is a very eclectic group of science fiction and fantasy indie authors and hybrid authors, because I know a lot of you guys are pitching for traditional publication too. And back in January, we sort of touched base on what the plans were for 2022 with writing and publishing. And I know things have changed for some of you. Some of you are right on where you wanted to be. And then maybe some are like me and fell a little behind. But we just want to hear what's going on in the writing world. And before we get to that, why don't you introduce yourself to the viewers who don't know who you are yet? I guess we can start with Luke and go around counterclockwise, because last time we did clockwise.
Right.
So just to introduce myself again for those who know me or those who don't know me, or just so I'm Luke Courtney. I'm currently based in London. I'm currently an indie author with 4 books. You have the children's story Two Horn, aimed at the 5 to 10-year-olds. You have my ongoing urban stroke dark fantasy series, Argent Blade, which comprises 2 books at present, Argent Blade and Argent Blade Plague Carrier. And my ongoing dark fantasy project, the Phoenix Saga, which is currently just 1 book from the Ashes. But I'll say I'm currently at work on the sequel, as well as a new epic fantasy series entitled the Winged Wolf Saga. So that's who I am.
Very exciting. And I've linked everybody's information in the description box. So if you're watching on Facebook or you're watching on YouTube, you can sort of click to follow everybody who's here. If you're watching on Twitter, you will have to flip over to YouTube or Facebook if you want the links, because Twitter won't let me drop them. But Sean, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. I am Sean Donovan. I've written a few short stories for indie presses. And I'm currently working on a fantasy series. I've written the first book. I'm currently querying it. So I'm also doing a couple edits as I go. And I am working on the second book now, just drafting it. And then just writing down little scribbles of other ideas I've got, or, you know, if a short story comes to me, writing that and submitting it. So I'm all over the place.
Yeah, keep things interesting.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, definitely. And Sean is like the king of reels. I can
Oh,
definitely learn something. I mean, DM, I know you've got good reels too, but when I first found Instagram, Sean's reels were some of the first regular reels that I ever saw. And I was just like, this is incredible. You were doing reels before they were popular.
Yeah. Well, I just like making fun of people, and everyone laughs at it, so I just do it.
That's true. Well, it's a good way to get a message across as well. Comedy and tragedy, 2 earliest art forms. They're still useful today.
Exactly. Shakespeare knew what he was doing.
Yeah. The difference between my reels and Sean's reels is like, I just have music. I just do like Hamilton music or whatever. Sean actually like makes a script and like acts it out.
No.
And that's why it's like hilarious.
There's no script.
Okay, you do improv, and it's hilarious.
I'll just be kind of spinning in my desk, and I'm like, all right, how do I make this a punchline? And I just film myself for 20 minutes, and then I'm like,
Just
right,
hit
and
record.
upload.
Yeah.
I think the only real script was when we did our combo reel.
Yeah, when we did ours.
Yeah.
Oh. And as I say, and as we show from those deleted scenes, like I say, there were so many ways that went wrong.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
So coming fall 2022, how to do effective writer reels with Sean Donovan.
There might not be a script for that either.
DM, welcome. So I know if you're watching, you've probably heard me review DM's book, The Lightning Bride, a couple weeks ago on the Fantasy Friday review report. Tell us what's going on and introduce yourself a little bit.
Yes, so I'm DM Sontag, author of The Lightning Bride. That's my debut book that I published in October of 2020. And since then, I've written 3 more. 2 of those are novellas. And then one of those is the second book of a trilogy called The Golden Wolf. And I am currently working on the 3rd of the trilogy, the climactic ending, The Forest Heir. And that will be published sometime this year. Date TBD. Yeah, and that's basically it. Right now it's the trying to finish the trilogy of nautical new adult fantasy, and then I've got so many other plans. I have another trilogy of YA paranormal, like vampires and werewolves, and then another series of what I've dubbed as steampunk Naruto.
Oh, I love that.
Sean just shivered in his seat.
Like,
no.
The best anime ever, Naruto.
Please, no.
No, we
content for the next
Sword
reel.
Sword Art Online is the best anime ever.
And I'm just sitting here with no clue what you're talking about.
It's like you young whippersnappers in your weirdo anime.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So that brings us to Matthew Romeo. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I always mispronounce your last name. So Matthew brings a really interesting twist because you've got some fantasy, you've got some sci-fi, you've got some science fantasy. So tell us a little bit about your works.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Matthew Romeo. I'm the author of the science fantasy trilogy, The Maven Knight, The Maven Knight Ones of Aster, and Maven Knight Air Providence. All out, all on Amazon. I'm presently working on the hardback cover for Air of Providence. Ones of Aster is all done, so if you want to order that on Barnes & Noble for your collection, you can, but there's still problems with it, so don't get to it just yet. I'm also working on a full-on science fiction series called The Outrider Saga. The first book of that comes out August 9th. And then I'm also querying for my epic fantasy series, The Seaworth Chronicles, but there's been not a lot of progress on that. You all know how querying is.
Oh yeah.
Like at the moment, like having fingernails pulled out.
I like
that actually,
I would welcome that compared to some of the query responses I've had the last couple of months.
So that actually brings up one of the pre-submitted questions that I got, and it was aimed at Luke, but I know that there's multiple people on here who were querying. God. The question was, Luke, because you put up a post, I think last week, being very open and transparent about the whole experience.
I knew that was going to come back to haunt me.
But the question was, how long have you been traditionally querying, and how long does it typically take an indie author to get signed by an agent?
Your guess is as good as mine. I've been well, considering I keep having to backtrack and keep re-editing and retweaking and refixing The Girl Who Sings to Dragons, the current epic fantasy novel I'm querying at the moment. Oh god, who knows? I mean, like I say, half the time it feels like every time I make a query, the responses I get back feel like they're changing the goalposts consistently. Which is why I'm currently working myself to the bone on the latest round of edits, because like I say, the longer I spend trying to tweak this to the specifications they want, the less time I have to work on the actual writing. So yeah, your guess is as good as mine on how long it takes to get an indie author to get signed. I mean,
you've been trying all
year,
right? Did you start late last year?
Sorry?
Oh, did you start late last year, or have you been trying all year this year?
I did put some queries out early this year, and like I say, every time it's come back wrong, I've ended up making more tweaks and more edits based on the feedback. So like I say, it's been an ongoing cycle from there. I mean, the current round of edits was discovering, like I say, from the last agent who threw it back at me, like I say, that a lot of agents won't take a first novel over 150,000 words. So now I'm currently, like I say, trying to strip down. I mean, I'm close. I mean, I'm in the ballpark, but like I say, there's no guarantee that will yield results. But like I say, considering I want this book to have the best chance possible, you know, and you know, you end up sacrificing more and more bits of yourself in the hope of of achieving that dream. And I suppose the worst comes to worst, there is always the indie route as well.
Right. And
it's not to say that indie publishing is, you know, like I say, the fallback option, but there is that option there as well. But like I say, I have a lot of high hopes for this current story I'm working on, the Winged Wolf saga. I have a lot of high hopes for it. So I kind of want to give it the best chance, you know. And besides, if some of the books I've read over the last few years can get published, why can't mine?
Right.
I was also thinking we're all waiting for George R.R. Martin to finish, so it's like in that wait, like your book can get published.
Never gonna happen at this point.
Right.
Sean,
one day, I expect that meme to come to life one day. They'll never guess who I'm going to kill next. Breaking news that George R.R. Martin found dead.
Yeah. He's never going to finish.
Will imitate art soon.
Oh, goodness. So, Sean and Matthew, how long have you guys been querying?
Sean, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, Matt, I think you've been at it longer than I have. You started earlier this year, right?
It's been very sporadic.
Yeah.
To be fair, that's the way with everything, is it? Real life always intrudes.
I sent out a few queries back in January and February, but then by March, I kind of gave up.
Like, did you?
To be fair, it's a bit soul crushing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they say inure yourself to it, and you do to a degree, but like I say, it's still disappointing.
Yeah, I think
I've taken it in stride.
Yeah, I think I started. I think I sent my first the last week of April, and I've only submitted to 3 or 4 agents because I'm still working on it, so I'm not like in a huge rush. And I got my first rejection. It was a form rejection last week. But it was, I mean, like, honestly, with this first round, I'm just kind of feeling out, like, to see if I can even get to the next level. Like,
that makes sense.
Because everyone I've submitted to is asked for query letter, synopsis, and sample pages. So at this point, I'm just going to see, like, can I get to the full manuscript? And then if they reject that, I'm kind of hoping they'll give feedback so I know what they're really looking for. Rather than just, like, seeing. That's the only thing I'm
nervous about is submitting the whole manuscript, because I'm like, I'm always paranoid about ghostwriters just being like, oh, yoink.
Yeah, taking it. Yeah.
I didn't even consider that, honestly, considering I've never even gotten to that stage. So that will be a first for me.
Where have you guys been finding your agents?
Most of my
Google.
Most of my agent searches I do, like say, during the dead hours at work. Mostly querying, like say, Google search or agents accepting fantasy, and that is a very, very small pool, I find. Certainly in England. I mean, I end up extending my search to international because, let's say, I know it's become. I don't know if you guys you two have experienced as well, but I know it's a bit more accepted now. But fantasy is still something of a niche genre, isn't it? So a lot of agents I find look down on it.
It's really like it's Tor and like
Orbit.
Yeah, Orbit that are the big fantasy publishers, and outside of that, it's very niche.
Yeah,
it's the smaller. It's like they're traditional but smaller, and then they'll usually get absorbed by Tor or not Orbit. I think it's Hatchet Books like owns Orbit, so they just kind of fall into that too.
Yeah, so I know one of the things that I do for my day job is like pitch coaching for people, and the authors that I worked with last year that got signed, a lot of them have been pitching for 1 to 3 years.
I mean, like, you soon then.
I feel like it's always moving though. It's like you said, Luke.
Yeah.
Really, that's the honest truth. Is that what agents are looking for? Always seem to be changing. Like I followed Jane Friedman, and she used to be one of the top literary agents for some of the big 5. And I just have come to the conclusion that finding a good agent is like finding a spouse. It might take you years, but once you've got them, you're pretty much stuck with them the rest of your life. So you just have to find the right one. But I'll drop a link here for any authors that are watching too who are planning on pitching. There's a list that Reedsy puts out every year of agents that they have vetted that you can at least breathe knowing somebody else has vetted them. And this year there's like 680 of them, and you can do by country and by genre. Okay, I know myself, I have not personally sought an agent or traditional publishing because it's very daunting. It's like I work with other authors and I feel good helping narrow down, but when it's your own work, like you said, Luke, cutting out part of yourself in your book and your darling, because we usually hold the book like the special book. It's like, this is the one I want to put out. Traditional. What about you, DM? Are you doing anything traditional wise this year?
Yeah, no, I was going to say I'm very similar to that of the like, I'm not ready yet because it's very daunting. I'm still trying to figure out the indie world and how to best self-publish because I haven't cracked that down yet. So once I crack that down, then I think I'll be ready to start querying, and I'll know more because there's still so much I don't know about how to query and how to write a letter and all of that. But I do have a series that I want to get traditionally published. So the two series I was talking about before, the YA and then the Steampunk Naruto, those I still plan to self-publish because I like the timeline that I can give myself with control. Like the YA book, I hope to rapid release in a year. So all 3 books in 1 year. And the other series, I'm not sure how quick I can get that out. But that one I was kind of planning on like, maybe then I'll be ready to start querying. So I'll have that on the side and I can get self-published books out while I'm querying, while I'm waiting for that book.
So DM, you're saying you don't want to wait 10 years to release one of your books? Like one of your books.
I mean, it took him 10 years to release Way of Kings, but like then after that, it kind of like steamballed or snowballed or whatever it's called.
We're gonna make it steamballed.
That was a dig.
Steamrolled, snowballed. That's what I.
That's why I'm so desperate to get. That was why I'm so desperate to get through this current batch of editing so I can get back to writing Fire Rising, because I don't want this dragging on for years and years. Because the Phoenix Saga is enough of a beast to wrestle as it is without additional delays. And like I say, you talk about rapid releasing next year, and that's kind of my plan for 2023, because I've got 2 novellas and the final book of the Argent Blade series planned for that year. So I kind of want to get them all done in one go.
Oh, is one of those novellas Edmund?
He may turn up in one of them, because I've kind of got 2 ideas, because they still will have the. They've got these 2 novellas that are going to kind of bridge the gap a bit between book 2, Argent Blade Plague Carrier, and book 3, working title Argent Blade End War. So they kind of still got the kind of same vibe, so the kind of urban stroke dark vibe with elements of other things. So I've got one that I kind of want to have a bit of a murder mystery vibe to it, and then the other one is kind of got elements of a heist to it as well, because I've been jotting down. Funny enough, I was jotting down ideas for that earlier this afternoon during a slow period at work, and I say it just kind of struck me. All basically, so that one will involve them, the Order, basically infiltrating kind of this, like say, black tie, black market auction of like stolen artifacts, and then, of course, their plans all go to hell, and it's how do we get out with what we need and with our skins in one piece.
Here's a good one. Writers of Rohan anthology ?
No, we've got it. We've got it.
We had that idea. We were working on that Pitch Wars idea.
We have a book.
Yeah.
We will write a book at some point in life.
We've technically written some of it.
Yeah, we've written.
We have the climax written.
Yeah, we have the climax.
Yeah, the climax. That was it. I was like, what's
the best way to get it worked is you 3 coordinate my kidnap to the States for free, and then we can just work it out. It'll be cheaper than flying out there if you just kidnap me.
We do need to get you over to the States, yes.
Speaking of heist, we'll get Luke, get in, get out. You know, no one.
Yes, heist.
You're the only man for this job.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rebecca.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, she can come too. We can kidnap her.
Yeah, she can come too.
Because
Oh,
DM, Sean,
goodness.
are you guys ever going to try and write a heist book?
I would love to. I just need the right setting. I think a setting
Yeah,
and set
I've
of
done
characters.
set. It was only, I say, earlier, I say, writing down some ideas for this new Argent Blade novel. I realised, I say, how much of a heist idea is going to be put into this. Just like jotting down these like ideas at the moment. But like I say, I've kind of got the basis of these two novellas in my head. So like I say, and the more I think about it, the more, like I say, elements of, like I say, other genres like murder mystery and now heist coming into it will add something new, you know, something the readers haven't seen from me before. Because obviously, as a writer, you always want to challenge yourself to write new things, don't you?
So yeah, that's. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
Oh no, you go ahead.
That's kind of what I've been trying to do with the Outrider saga. Is each book is going to be different. Like one's going to be a heist book. One of them I want it to be a survival, like almost like a survival thriller. So it's not all going to be like heist books or warfare, epic fantasy books. Like it's going to try and be different little stories.
Cool.
How long of a
Awesome.
series do you think Outrider will end up being?
5 books, 5 short books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the first Outrider up for pre-order?
It is. The Kindle
Just
is
went
up
up,
for
right?
pre-order.
Yeah.
But of course, ARCs, they get it for free. So.
But seriously,
Now, the
you
downside
guys,
is
if
you have
you're
to read
watching,
it for a certain date, and I know that from experience because I'm now tearing through my current arc to get it read before the deadline.
Yeah.
yeah, if you guys are watching, the Outrider series is very unique and very different. And I'm reading Maven Knight, and it's a very different feel than Maven Knight, but it's really good. So I highly recommend pre-ordering it.
It's like Star Wars and Star Trek. Like Outriders is more Star Trek, like heavy on the sci-fi, and then Maven Knight is science fantasy, and Star Wars vibes.
I saw some definite Star Warsy feel, more Star Trek feel, and maybe some Guardians of the Galaxy feel in there.
Yeah,
I was like,
Yes, yeah, definitely.
This is epic.
Well, that settles it. Now, when I promote you on Instagram, that's going to have hooked on feeling going along with it.
Absolutely, I'm all for it.
Or what's the one that's like burn, darn, darn, darn? Is that hooked on a feeling?
Oh, that's
I don't know.
Come and Get Your Love by Redbone.
Oh, come and get your love.
So when Luke
Maybe.
and Rebecca come to the States, they're going to go down to ride the new ride at Disney too, I guess. With Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, at Epcot. It's
Oh, I just
haven't
knew
been
about
on
the
it.
Star Wars.
insane.
So if you're watching and you don't know, on top of loving Middle Earth, we love some Star Wars and some Star Trek.
We also
and
love
stuff.
to criticize the current state of it, don't
We
we?
like the old Star Wars.
So let's talk a bit about social media stuff. So DM, you have sort of brought back one of your series, which I greatly appreciate being hosted on, and there's other great authors that you've hosted as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that series and like how often it runs and when the viewers can catch that?
Sure, yeah. So I have a series on Instagram called Books and Brews, where I bring on. They don't always have to be writers, but typically they are, because we love books, writing books. But it's really just people who love talking about books. And if you're a writer or if you're an author, we talk about your own book, and we sip some brews. So that can be coffee, that can be tea, that can be a beer or water. Really, just anything. Like, just call it a brew. But yeah, and I used to do it weekly, but that was way too much. So now I do it monthly. I took May off. I did have a guest, so hopefully I can have that guest on June, the end of June. So typically they're on Thursdays and the end of the month.
Awesome. And then Matthew, are you still doing your Star Wars themed series?
I ran Galactic Writing. It's still a thing, but just I haven't had enough time to coordinate or get guests on because I've recently started returning to work at my day job, and that has thrown me for a complete loop. Trying to figure out schedules.
I know the feeling. I'm the same here. I say that's one of the downsides of it being an indie author. You have to kind of, like I say, work it around your real life.
Yeah, in real life. But, like,
The
it was
job that
super
pays the
easy
bills.
in
Yeah.
quarantine because, you know, like, I could get away with being on my phone way more often.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was never more productive as a writer than in quarantine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People talk about COVID babies. We have COVID books.
Yeah.
Yeah, book babies.
The better, if you ask me.
So, Sean, you have not put a book out yet, but you got I want to call us a cult following because we're always like, oh, Sean has a new thing up.
Please do call it a cult following.
John.
Make sure it has a
John.
good name. Sacrifices on Wednesday and maybe Thursday.
Father Donovan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there we have a character for the book.
Considering
Oh
I've got
my God.
theocratic villains in my current work in progress, that name is now becoming co-opted for a character.
Father
There
Donovan.
you go.
Well, Father Compton was like a cult leader name in some video game. I think it wasn't Fallout, but I found it in a book. It's in the Time Traveler's Wife. Like, there's a Catholic priest named Father Compton, and I ran to my husband. I was like, "Isn't this a cult leader in a video game?"
So, Sean, tell us what's going on your social media. And I had a question that was submitted before the live, which is there a certain number of followers you're trying to hit in order to help you get an agent easier on social media?
I'll answer the second one first. And I think maybe a year or so ago, I would have said probably yes. But then I've seen like other traditionally published authors, and I would check their follower count, and it wasn't that much different from mine. So that kind of took the load off of being like, oh, well, I mean, like the big names are going to have thousands and thousands, right? But like other people that are either on the New York Times bestseller list or on other, getting other accolades are like around my range. So I'm like, oh, doesn't, and then I don't know if you guys follow Chris Stuckman, but he put out a video because he's directing an independent film, and he said, I've got all these millions of followers that are all this stuff, and when I was trying to pitch my movie, they didn't care about any of that, and it's like in the millions. So I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. I'll just do whatever. Like, I don't worry as much about follower count.
No, same.
Yeah, but in terms of what I'm doing on social media, this year I wanted to do a lot more book reviews. Not so much of like the big names. Like I've reviewed, I think I did like a Discworld review, but I try and do books that I don't think people have heard of.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of your reviews do tend to be, I'll say, things I've certainly not encountered.
Yeah,
I've encountered a few of them, but like I said, they're not the kind of thing I would normally read. So it's kind of it's good that someone's bringing them a bit more to light.
Yeah, just to I guess spread awareness. I think what was it in May, June? I ran a series where every day I posted like a weird new topic that I thought about that I'm, that would just come to mind about not just writing but like creativity in general. A lot of it was geared toward writing because that's what I'm most familiar with. But that was fun. I don't remember what I called it. It had a name. It had a hashtag. But
was it different from Behind the Pen?
It was like the extension of that, but it had a different. It didn't. I don't know.
Further beyond the pen.
Yeah.
Beyond
within the ink.
the pen.
Yeah, but it was something like that. So it's like, I think I just mostly keep my feed to like reviews. I think this week I posted about the new idea I've had, and it's mostly posting. So I can kind of tell myself, yes, this is what you're thinking. Okay, now just put it into writing, and then press submit. And kind of just get like a general vibe for like mood boards and like character descriptions and stuff like that. So I think a lot of my stuff is either, well, I'm thinking about it, type, find image on Canva, post, or just like, well, I've got this new, I'm thinking this through, and I'll type it and then see how other people respond to it. So very, I guess, experimental. And then the occasional, I get bored at work and I'm like, that's funny. I'll make it real. And then make it real.
John, I'm very surprised that you haven't done anime or manga reviews on your profile.
All the manga I've been reading is like Dragon Ball Z, and I'm like, what more can I add to that conversation? Yeah, I did read a manga that's like on Shonen Jump's online service that was like intense. So I was like, I'll review that. Then I was like, it doesn't really fit with the vibe of like my content, so I was like, I'll just keep it to myself. Follow me on Goodreads and you'll see what I do. But yeah, maybe I don't on my like read list. I don't have too much manga ahead of me, but maybe I think I kind of want to start talking about comic books too, because I mostly keep it to novels. So if I find a cool indie or comic book or a comic book that I'm like, why doesn't everyone read this? Then maybe I'll review that.
And
but yeah,
it's a lot of content.
Yeah.
We've got new series. We've got just a lot in the works. And Luke, are you going to do any more live reads?
Maybe when I've got something more to show, and obviously with things at the moment, my time schedule is up in the air so much. It's an idea I can go with. It's an idea I may say come back to. I say at the moment I've not really got a lot to share. Also, because I say what I should be working on at the moment is, like I say, the first draft. Even I could tell that what I've got the first draft so far of Fire Rising, the sequel of the Phoenix Saga. There is going to be a metric ton of editing needing to be done on that. But maybe further down the line, when things are a bit more polished, I may come back to that. Yeah.
And then the last question is sort of for all of you guys. So audiobooks are starting to really pick up in visibility. When I've recommended, I know, Sean, I don't have a book of yours to recommend yet, but when I've been recommending books that you guys have written, one of the first things I'm getting, like on Twitter and other places, is do they have an audiobook? So do any of you have audiobooks in the work? Like Luke, you could probably narrate your own.
Possibly. It'll be about finding the time and the resources to do it all. I'm not that familiar with that kind of aspect of this, so I'd kind of I'm open to the idea. It's certainly a good way to, let's say, extend the reach. But I think I need to research it a bit more and have a bit more time on hand to experiment with it before going down that road. But I'm certainly open to the idea.
Yeah. How about you, Matthew? You got any audiobooks in the works?
So that was part of my goal this year, was to get Maven Knight into audiobook, but I don't think that's going to happen because I don't have enough time or money to commit to it.
Yeah, that's always the big one. That's another.
Yeah,
that's always the downside with being an indie.
Like I was toying with the idea of narrating it myself, but then I was like, I don't have the right equipment. I don't have a booth to do it in. Like, I would want it to sound really good. So that's a work in progress.
And you're kind of committing to 3 books if you do Maven Knight.
Yeah, exactly. I can't just do one.
Yeah, I'm working on like Matt said earlier, like getting it into hardback first. So it's like I just want to finish my trilogy, have them all in hardback, and then I'll maybe consider audiobook. And I saw Tina Capricorn did a fundraiser. It wasn't GoFundMe, and I can't remember what it was. Kickstarter, that's it. Did a really cool Kickstarter and funded her audiobook. So I definitely, that will probably be the way I will go when eventually I do get that audiobook, because it's very expensive. I think it's like editors charge by the minute or something.
Yeah, charge by the hour. At least in the US, like if you go ACX, it's charged by the hour.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have to have a Kickstarter for that, and but that'll be the nigh future.
And then Sean, I guess you're working on like the perfect book so that when the publisher signs it, they're like, here's 15 different languages and the audiobook.
Oh yeah, my book has been written in my language, and Spanish. Oh yeah, I know. I mean, the only audiobook version of my book that exists is when I am reading it out loud, and I'm like,
we've all got that. I mean, hell, my first encounter with the sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I'm just cracking away at the words themselves, not letting anyone else hear them, because I'm like, they're bad. But then I'm like, are they? And then I let agents tell me they're bad.
or it's not bad. It's just not a good fit for us.
Yeah, because
I've read that one too many times.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is when you were Catherine, you were talking about agents saying it's not the right fit. I was thinking too, like, even if it's right for the agent, maybe the market, it's not good in the market anymore, right? Like what's popular this year and you're pitching now could be popular next year, but right now it's not. So it's like,
well, and it's about location too. Like Luke said, going outside of where you are, one of the authors that got signed is an American author. He got signed by an Australian agent. he put it out in London, but it hit the #1 Amazon bestseller list in Australia. And I'm like, you go where the market wants the book, I guess. Go to the readers. But thank you all so much for joining. It's so exciting to hear what's all in the work. I wish you the best of luck with your traditional publishing. If you're watching live, and again, you want to follow Matthew, DM, Luke, or Sean, definitely check out the links in my description box. And you can check out their January video too, back in the dark archives of January this year, 6 months ago.
It was like a lifetime ago.
Look at our optimism. Look where we are now.
That's right.
Pretty much the same place where we were.
Yep.
But we're trucking right along, and Matthew's got a new book coming out, and DM's got new books coming out, and Luke's got stuff to throw at us in 2023, and
I'm hoarding all mine. You don't get to see it yet.
and Sean is hoarding.
One day,
But the dragon will share the books one day.
Never.
It's like one of those things where after you die, you plan to be like a future Tutankhamun, where let's say years
We'll have to
centuries after you
Bilbo
die,
into
we find
his,
your books.
into his hoard.
You'll never find my secrets.
Steal his art.
Thank you all so much. I hope you have a great weekend, and look forward to seeing where we are 6 months from now.
Yeah, it's good talking
This
to you
again in
guys.
December or something.
Yep.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks,
You guys
guys.
for having us.
Bye. Thank you.
See you soon.